The champagne glass shattered against marble, crystal fragments catching the chandelier light like fallen stars. Marcus Wellington didn't flinch. He never did. At 42, the tech billionaire had built an empire on calculated risks and cold logic. His penthouse overlooking Manhattan, a temple to excess where emotion was the only luxury he couldn't afford. But on this particular October evening, as rain streaked his floor-to-ceiling windows, a stranger would walk through his door and shatter something far more precious than crystal, the walls around his heart. "Mr. Wellington, there's someone here to see you." His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, uncertainty bleeding through her usual professional tone. Marcus frowned, loosening his Hermes tie. He wasn't expecting anyone, and unexpected visitors were as welcome as computer viruses. "I didn't schedule any appointments tonight, Rebecca." "I know, sir. But he's persistent. Says his name is Thomas Chen. He claims he can help you walk again." The bitter laugh that erupted from Marcus's chest echoed through the empty penthouse. 5 years. 5 years since the accident that had stolen his ability to walk, and 5 years of the world's best doctors delivering the same verdict. Permanent spinal damage, irreversible. He'd heard every pitch from every charlatan, faith healer, and snake oil salesman, who thought a billionaire's desperation was their meal ticket. "Tell him to get in line with the other miracle workers," Marcus said, wheeling toward his bar cart. "Sir, he doesn't want money. He says he just wants 10 minutes. Marcus's hand paused over the whiskey decanter. In his experience, everyone wanted money. Everyone had an angle. But something in Rebecca's voice, a quality he couldn't quite identify, made him curious despite himself. "Fine, 10 minutes. Then I want him gone." The man who entered wasn't what Marcus expected. Thomas Chen appeared to be in his 60s, wearing a simple gray cardigan over khaki pants, his weathered hands empty of briefcases or promotional materials. His eyes held a depth that unsettled Marcus. Not pity, which he'd learned to despise, but something that looked disturbingly like understanding. "Mr. Wellington, thank you for seeing me," Thomas said, his voice carrying traces of an accent Marcus couldn't quite place. "You've got 9 minutes left," Marcus replied, not bothering to hide his hostility. "Make it count." Thomas didn't sit despite the invitation, instead moving to the window, gazing out at the city's glittering sprawl. "Beautiful view. From up here, you can see everything but feel removed from it all, safe, protected. I didn't invite you here for philosophical observations about my apartment." "No," Thomas agreed, turning to face him. "You invited me here because part of you, a very small part, you've tried to silence, still hopes." Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "Hope is a luxury for people who can't afford acceptance. I've accepted my reality." "I didn't say you couldn't walk in business. Mr. Wellington, I said I can help you walk again." "Right," Marcus rolled his eyes. "Let me guess, you've discovered a revolutionary treatment that doctors somehow missed. Or maybe you're peddling stem cells harvested from Tibetan monks. I've heard it all." "I'm not offering medicine," Thomas said simply. "I'm offering service." "Service?" Marcus laughed again, but this time it sounded hollow even to his own ears. Thomas reached into his cardigan and pulled out a worn leather wallet. From it, he extracted a faded photograph of a young man in military uniform. "My son David, 23 when this was taken. He was a medic in Afghanistan. Always wanted to help people, even as a child. He'd bring home injured birds, stray cats, once even a raccoon that bit him 3 times before he gave up." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. He didn't do personal stories, didn't invite emotional connections. "I'm sorry, but I don't see what—" "David was killed by an IED while running toward wounded soldiers," Thomas continued, his voice steady despite the grief etched in every line of his face. "He saw 3 men down and didn't hesitate. The medics who survived said he was smiling as he ran toward danger because he knew he could help." The penthouse fell silent except for the rain's persistent drumming against glass. "After he died, I couldn't function," Thomas said. "I had money. David's life insurance, my savings, my small business, but I felt dead inside. Until one day, I met a homeless veteran struggling with his wheelchair on a broken sidewalk. His wheels were bent, useless, and I thought David would have stopped." Thomas moved closer to Marcus, his eyes holding that unsettling understanding again. "So I fixed his wheelchair. Spent my own money, took it to a shop, had it repaired properly." The look on that man's face, For the first time since David died, I felt something besides pain. I felt purpose. That's a touching story, Marcus said, his voice flat, defensive. But I'm not some charity case needing rescuing. I don't need your pity. I'm not offering pity, Thomas replied. I'm offering opportunity. Not for you, for me. Marcus blinked. What? Since that day, I've helped 17 people walk again. Not through medicine or miracles, but through service. Some needed better wheelchairs. Some needed home modifications. Some needed prosthetics they couldn't afford. I've spent nearly everything I have, and I've never been richer. You're insane, Marcus said, but his voice had lost its edge. Thomas smiled sadly. Maybe. But I've learned something about walking that doctors don't teach. Walking isn't just about legs moving, Mr. Wellington. It's about moving towards something. These past 5 years, you haven't been paralyzed. You've been running. Running from connection, from vulnerability, from anything that might hurt you. That penthouse throne you've built, it's not a kingdom. It's a cage. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. His hands gripped his wheelchair's armrests, knuckles white. You don't know anything about me. I know you had 6,000 employees come to your company's last charity gala, and you didn't show up to your own event. I know your sister calls every week, and you haven't answered in 3 years. I know that despite being surrounded by luxury, you eat dinner alone every single night. Get out, Marcus whispered, but there was no conviction in it. Thomas walked to the door, then paused. I wasn't offering to fix your spine. Mr. Wellington, I was offering you the chance to fix mine, to help me keep my son's memory alive by helping others. Sometimes the person being carried isn't the one who needs to walk again. He left behind a business card on the marble console table. Just a name and phone number, nothing more. Marcus sat alone in his penthouse kingdom, Thomas's words echoing louder than his heartbeat. He looked at his reflection in the darkened windows, seeing for the first time not a powerful billionaire, but a frightened man hiding behind steel and glass. 3 days later, Marcus made a call. 6 months after that, Wellington became something Wall Street had never seen, a billionaire who showed up. Not in boardrooms exclusively, but in veterans' hospitals, rehabilitation centers, and community workshops. His fortune, once hoarded, began flowing toward prosthetics programs, accessibility initiatives, and medical research. But more than his money, he gave something he'd locked away, himself. Thomas became a constant companion, not as an employee, but as a friend. Together, they helped 43 more people regain mobility through equipment, surgery funding, and support services. Marcus learned their names, their stories, their hopes. He learned that walking wasn't measured in steps, but in connections. The night everything changed completely arrived quietly. Marcus was working late at a community center he'd funded when Thomas collapsed. The heart attack was massive, unexpected. As paramedics worked frantically, Thomas reached for Marcus's hand. Thank you, Thomas whispered. You helped me walk toward something again, too. Toward peace. Thomas Chen died before reaching the hospital, but his last expression was one Marcus would never forget, a smile that looked remarkably like the one his son must have worn running toward those wounded soldiers. At the funeral, Marcus met 65 people whose lives had been changed by Thomas's simple philosophy of service. And standing there, surrounded by a community he'd helped build, Marcus realized something profound. He was walking, not with his legs, but with his heart, his hands, his purpose. The paralysis he'd carried for 5 years hadn't been in his spine, it had been in his spirit. Marcus still uses his wheelchair. His doctors were right about his spine. But now he wheels toward people instead of away from them. He answers his sister's calls. He shows up to galas, visits employees' families, remembers birthdays. His penthouse remains, but it's no longer a fortress. It's a home where people gather, where laughter echoes, where a worn photograph of a smiling young medic holds a place of honor on the mantle, because Thomas Chen taught him the greatest truth about walking. It's not about the ground you cover, but the people you move toward. And sometimes the only way to stand tall is to first kneel in service to others. The millionaire learned to walk again, just not the way he expected.